Yesterday, I saved a wounded alien woman. I thought I was helping someone survive the desert. By sunrise, armed soldiers were at my door, asking where their queen was. The problem was, she was inside my hut, bleeding, barely standing, and looking at me like I was the only thing left between her and an empire that wanted her dead. My name is Elias Vale. On Vera 9, humans were not supposed to matter. We were workers, mechanics, temporary labor. The kind of species powerful empires forgot unless something broke. But after 4 alien queens publicly chose me in the middle of a desert settlement, I became the one thing every powerful man in the system suddenly feared. A symbol. And symbols are dangerous. The night before, Commander Threx had declared me an unstable biological asset. He had sent his soldiers toward the settlement, claiming he was protecting the Empire from me. But I knew better. He was not afraid of what I had done. He was afraid of what people had seen. A human refusing to kneel. 4 queens standing beside him. And villagers, the poorest people in the Empire, choosing to stand too. That kind of thing spreads faster than fire. The first attack came after midnight. No sirens. No warning. Just a low hum in the sky, and then the settlement lights died all at once. I was outside the old repair shed when darkness swallowed the village. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then the screaming started. Royal guards shouted from the street. Engines roared somewhere beyond the market. A blue flash cut across the rooftops, and one of the mud walls exploded into dust. I hit the ground hard. Sand filled my mouth. Someone yelled my name. Elias. It was Viella. One of the 4 queens. The quiet one. The one who had looked at me like she already knew the cost of choosing me. She appeared through the dust, running toward the alley behind the water stalls. Her cream robe was torn, her braided hair loose, and there was blood on her arm. Behind her, 3 dark-armored soldiers came through the smoke. Not royal guards. Threx's men. They were not trying to arrest her. They were trying to end her. I did not think. Humans rarely do when someone is bleeding in front of them. I grabbed a broken metal pipe from the repair shed and stepped into the alley. The first soldier raised his rifle. I threw the pipe as hard as I could. It hit his visor with a sharp crack, knocking him sideways. The second soldier turned toward me, but Viella lifted her hand and sent a pulse of pale blue light into the sand. The ground burst upward. Dust blinded all of us. I felt her hand catch my sleeve. "Run," she gasped. So we ran. Through smoke. Through panicked villages. Through narrow alleys where mud walls scraped my shoulders. She stumbled twice. The third time, her knees gave out completely. I caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was ice cold. "Viella," I said. "Stay with me." She tried to answer, but only blood came from her lips. That was when I saw the wound under her ribs. Deep, burned at the edges. Energy weapon. I looked back. Searchlights were moving over the rooftops. They were hunting her. Not me. Her. I lifted her into my arms and carried her toward the eastern huts, where the old workers lived. No palace. No guards. No royal protection. Just clay walls, patched roofs, and people who knew how to hide things from powerful men. An old woman opened her door before I even knocked. The same woman whose water filter I had fixed the day before. Her eyes widened when she saw Viella. "She is royal." "She is dying," I said. The old woman stepped aside. "Then bring her in." Inside the hut, the air smelled like dust, herbs, and warm oil. We laid Viella on a woven mat. Her breathing was shallow. Her fingers gripped my wrist with surprising strength. "Do not let them take me," she whispered. "I won't. You do not understand." I pressed cloth against her wound. "Then explain while not dying." Even through pain, she almost smiled. The old woman brought bandages and a small bowl of thick red paste. I did not ask what it was. On Vera 9, medicine was whatever kept you alive long enough to see morning. We worked in silence. I cleaned the wound, wrapped the burn, held pressure when her body shook. Outside, soldiers moved through the settlement. Boots on sand. Doors being kicked open. People being questioned. Every few minutes, a voice shouted the same words. By order of Commander Threx, surrender the Queen. The Queen. Not a queen. The Queen. I looked down at Viella. Her eyes were open now. And in them, I saw the truth she had been hiding. You are not just one of the queens, I said. Her hand moved to the pendant around her neck. A small blue gold star cracked down the center. I am the last direct heir of the first line, she whispered. The other queens rule by alliance. I rule by blood. I stared at her. Outside, another door broke open. So Threx is not trying to protect the Empire. No, Viella said. He is trying to take it. The old woman froze. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. Viella swallowed hard. If I die, he can claim emergency military control. If I disappear, he can accuse the queens of hiding me. Either way, he wins. I looked toward the door. And if he finds you here, everyone in this hut dies. The old woman lifted her chin. We all die someday. Viella looked at her, stunned. The old woman tied off the bandage and said, better for something true. That was the first time I saw Viella cry. Not because of pain. Because someone poor had protected her without asking for anything. Morning came slow. The kind of morning that feels guilty for arriving. The village was quiet, but not peaceful. Smoke still rose from the market. 2 huts had collapsed. Royal guards were nowhere in sight. Threx's soldiers controlled the main road, the well, and the landing path. And my name was being spoken in every street. The human. The chosen one. The asset. The traitor. Funny how fast titles change when men with weapons get scared. Viella could sit up by sunrise, but standing was another problem. Her face had color again, but every breath hurt. I was wrapping fresh cloth around her forearm when we heard Boots stop outside. Not passing. Stopping. 3 knocks hit the wooden door. Slow. Heavy. Official. The old woman looked at me. Viella's eyes widened. A voice called from outside. Open by order of Imperial Security. I picked up the short work blade I kept under the table. Viella shook her head. Elias? No. I looked at her. They came for you. And you cannot fight them all. I moved to the door. No. But I can lie badly enough to buy time. I opened it. 3 soldiers stood outside. Behind them, more waited in the street. Their armor was dark, their rifles raised, their visors glowing green in the morning light. The officer in front looked me up and down. Human. Morning. His eyes narrowed. We are searching for Queen Viella of the first line. Sounds important. She was seen entering this district. A lot of people enter this district. It's a district. He stepped closer. Move aside. I did not. The soldier's hand tightened on his rifle. From inside the hut, I heard Viella's breathing stop. I leaned slightly against the doorframe like I was tired, not terrified. You got a warrant? The soldier blinked. A what? A legal order. Signed by a queen. Since you are searching private homes. His jaw shifted. We have military authority. That's not what I asked. For a moment, nobody spoke. The street behind him had gone silent. Villagers were watching from doorways, from windows, from behind market carts. The human was arguing again. And this time, not with one commander. With an entire armed patrol. The officer lowered his voice. Do you understand what happens if you hide her? I smiled without warmth. Do you understand what happens if you need 3 rifles to question 1 mechanic? One of the soldiers stepped forward. The officer raised a hand, stopping him. He was not stupid. He knew the crowd was watching. He knew after yesterday, killing me in the street might turn a rumor into a revolution. So he tried another way. Commander Threx is offering protection to anyone who cooperates. There it is, I said. His eyes sharpened. What? The word men like him always use right before taking something. Protection. It sounded almost funny when spoken by soldiers with guns. The officer leaned close enough that only I could hear him. She is wounded. She will slow you down. Give her to us, and you can walk away. I looked over his shoulder. At the ship. At the soldiers. At the villagers pretending not to be afraid. Then I looked back at him. Humans are not known for walking away. His face hardened. Then you will fall with her. He turned and gave a signal. The soldiers spread out. 2 moved toward the back of the hut. My heart dropped. I shut the door and turned. Back exit. The old woman was already pulling up a floor mat. Under it was a narrow crawl passage. Of course, she had a secret escape tunnel. Every poor person on Vera 9 had one. Viella stared at it. This settlement is full of tunnels. The old woman snorted. Rich people build walls. Poor people build ways out. I helped Viella down first, then followed. The tunnel was barely wide enough for my shoulders. Dust scraped my face. Above us, the front door exploded inward. Soldiers shouted. The old woman slammed the floor cover shut. Then she did the bravest thing I had ever seen. She started yelling at them. Not screaming. Yelling. Like an angry grandmother whose morning had been disturbed. I almost laughed in the tunnel. Almost. We crawled beneath 3 huts, past old water pipes and rusted cables, until we came out behind the broken engine yard. Viella collapsed against a wall, breathing hard. I crouched beside her. We need to get you to the royal ship. She shook her head. Too obvious. Threx expects that. Then way. She reached for her pendant. The cracked blue star pulsed faintly. There is an old transmission tower beyond the settlement. If I can broadcast my blood seal, the outer queens will know I am alive. Threx's claim fails. How far? 2 kilometers. I looked at her bandages. You can barely stand. She looked at me with those pale eyes. Then I suppose I chose the right human. Great. Even wounded alien queens had jokes. We moved through the back alleys. Slowly. Painfully. Every few minutes, I had to stop and let her breathe. Soldiers swept the main streets. Drones buzzed overhead. The ship's shadow covered half the village like a storm cloud. But the villagers helped. A boy knocked over a fruit cart to block a patrol. A merchant pointed soldiers in the wrong direction. 2 women stretched laundry cloth across an alley just as a drone passed overhead. Nobody said anything to us. Nobody asked for thanks. They just moved. Quietly. Together. And I realized Threx had already lost something he did not understand. Control. We almost made it to the outer gate. Almost. The last patrol came from the rooftops. 1 shot hit the wall beside my head. Sand and stone burst across my face. I shoved Viella behind a water tank and drew the work blade. 6 soldiers dropped into the street. The officer from the hut walked between them. You should have handed her over. I stood in front of Viella. You should have brought more men. He laughed. Then stopped when the villagers appeared behind him. Not armed like soldiers. Armed like workers. Pipes. Tools. Rusted blades. Farm hooks. Anything they could hold. The officer looked around, confused. These people will die for you. I shook my head. No. I looked at the old woman standing at the front of the crowd, holding a wrench like a war hammer. They are done dying for people like you. The first soldier raised his rifle. Before he could fire, the sky split open with a sound like thunder. A royal aircraft dropped low over the settlement, engines screaming. Blue light washed over the street. The soldiers froze. A voice boomed from above. By authority of Queen Serelith, lower your weapons. Serelith. Mary's. Arana. They had found us. The officer looked at Viella, then at the villagers, then at the royal craft above. For the first time, fear crossed his face. Viella stepped out from behind me. She was pale, bleeding, barely standing. But when she lifted her chin, every person in that street knew exactly what she was. Not a victim. Not a fugitive. A queen. She raised the cracked pendant. It flared blue. A beam of light shot into the sky. Every public screen in the settlement flickered on. Viela's voice carried across Vera 9. I am Queen Viela of the first line. I am alive. Commander Threx has committed treason against the crown and against the people of this world. The soldiers looked at each other. The officer stepped back. Viela's voice trembled, but did not break. And by royal witness, I name Elias Vale, human of Earth, as the one who protected my life when my own empire failed to do so. Every screen showed her face. Every street heard her words. The human protected the queen. Not claimed her. Not captured her. Protected her. The difference mattered. Because for the first time, the empire saw a human not as property, not as weakness, not as a biological asset, but as someone a queen trusted with her life. Then Commander Threx's voice cut into the broadcast. All military units, seize the queen. Kill the human if necessary. The street went cold. The royal aircraft above shifted its weapons. The soldiers around us raised theirs. The villagers gripped their tools tighter. I looked at Viela. She looked at me. Neither of us had anywhere left to run. So I stepped forward. One human. Against soldiers. Against an empire. Against every lie they had ever told about my species. And behind me, the wounded queen stood tall. The old woman raised her wrench. The villagers formed a wall. Above us, royal engines roared. And as Commander Threx's army began moving through the settlement gates, I finally understood why the queens had chosen a human. Not because we were the strongest. Not because we were the fastest. But because when everyone else calculates survival, humans choose who is worth standing for. I tightened my grip on the blade. The soldiers advanced. The queen's pendant burned like a star in the desert light. And the whole empire was about to learn that saving one wounded alien woman had just started a war.